Fly on the wall.
Alrighty. We will reconvene this July 23rd Park Board to order. We'll start with roll call.
Sandy,
Here.
Schaefer,
Yes.
Shape,
Here.
Miller.
Yeah. Do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll move on to the approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second?
Motion and a second. Any discussion on the agenda? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. The agenda is approved. Moving on to the consent calendar. Notice all of the public, all matters listed are considered routine by the board and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless good cause is shown prior to the time the board votes on the motion to be adopted by roll call.
I'll make a motion to adopt the consent calendar consisting of the approval of the minutes, the disbursements, and the financial reports.
Second.
Motion and a second. Please call the roll, Jesse.
Schaefer,
Yes.
Shape,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Sandy.
Yes.
And we'll skip right down to unfinished business, 7A, discussion on the Rotary Solar Project.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So staff included a few things. The Park Board requested staff grab some more information. Staff did forward along some information last night regarding some clarifications from the Rotary Club with the solar project. Just kind of indicate a little bit more information. I did include some printouts that staff was able to collect from BPU. I kind of indicated in the email that we would reach out to BPU as the Rotary Club had been talking with BPU on coordinating the project details. So we talked with BPU and got some more information. So most of the different details are related to the location of the panels than what has been presented before. So the one alternative option that has been presented to like the BPU staff, for instance, has been a ground mounted array. And the reason for this is by doing a ground mounted array, there can be a larger array. So instead of the 9 kilowatt system that would have been mounted to the roof, they can fit a 40 kilowatt system in the ground mounted array system. I indicated that here in this map here. It's kind of a little bit southeast of the pavilion. It's kind of in an area that's not very well used currently. Obviously, with a larger system, there's a little bit more cost initially, but there's also a larger payback with that. Through BPU's initial run through with the dollar amounts, obviously the roof mounted system was less attractive than the ground mounted array. But staff did include some of the clarifications that the Park Board was kind of looking for in regards to security in preventing of vandalism. So with a roof mounted system, there's not a lot of prevention of vandalism that you can do with a roof mounted system. Outside of that, it's mounted on the roof and it's the height itself is kind of that prevention. Really what you can do is deterrence, such as security lighting and security cameras, but nothing that necessarily prevents vandalism. With a ground-mounted system, the other prevention measures that you would have here would be probably related to like a fencing. Looking at the area here, I would estimate somewhere in the realm of about a $20,000 area for fencing, thinking about the area that we just did with Mills Field. So looking at like an 8-foot fencing around this kind of an area, that's about what that would cost. I did add some extra clarifications that the city would file a claim against our insurance should there be damages, and that we would work through our insurance process to have to do those replacements. The BPU Public Utilities Commission will be taking the costs under advisement at their meeting next week. So I guess what staff is really looking for is kind of direction from the park board with some of this information that we're presenting here, as well as some of the new information that we presented or provided last night, as well as here. We're looking for some direction from what the park board would like to do. Would that be denying the solar project, but allowing for a power supply to the pavilion, allow the solar project contingent on the PUC approval of the funding, with some of the facets that was discussed before. I will note one thing that BPU staff kind of shared is with a larger solar array, there's obviously a little bit more cost on the initial side of that. The concern is if that solar array is removed after a few years, they'd want to find a way to recoup some of those costs. So finding a way to roll that into the agreement would be something that they'd want to see. Or another option would be tabling this discussion until a future meeting, until you can hear more on what the Utility Commission and how they discuss the fees on that too. And how they feel about moving that forward one way or the other, whether that be a ground system. It's not exactly apples to apples with 4 times, but you can kind of imagine it was about $30,000 for the install cost. It's not quite that 4 times, but it's quite a bit more. But you can kind of imagine about 4 times the cost for install. But you also get a quite bit more higher return on the back end of that too. So that's what staff is looking for discussion and direction from the park board on.
Thank you very much, Jesse. Any questions, comments, or concerns for Jesse right away? Anyone like to take a stab at an action or reason for doing it? Andrew.
Give it a go. I think this still sounds good. I think discussion last time about security, it kind of is what it is on the roof. It seems like if it's ground mounted, it probably needs to be a fence, but I guess where I'm at is I'm generally in favor of this, but I wouldn't think we want to approve anything formally until the PUC has looked at this, especially if there's now kind of a new option in play. I feel like that kind of came out of nowhere, which is fine. It would be more power. That's good. But I don't know if there's much we would want to do until there's a definite plan in front of us. So it's kind of where I'm at. It seems nice, but let's see what PUC says before we take any formal action.
And the discussion for funding has not actually occurred yet, correct?
Correct. That's on their plan to be on their agenda for next week.
Okay. And mirroring your point, I am still generally in favor of this. The pavilion is very high. I mean, I get it. Yeah, stack a couple of guys. I mean, you'd really have to go through a rigmarole to get to the top of this thing. So I am still generally in favor, but to Andrew's point, we just got to make sure the money's there. And if there is a new way that this is going to be assigned, I guess, regardless of how, if we're just adding more contact points for the vandalism argument, we'll have to make other considerations. But, I do want to make sure it's funded before we even go through the process of this. And then, of course, the logistics, like where are we actually putting this? Now, I know where this pedestal would go. It's interesting, and I'd like to see that exact plan from the PUC before taking any further action.
Just, if I may, Mr. Chair,
You may.
I don't think park is the right spot for a ground-mounted array. I've seen these placed, like these community solar arrays in like small cities around, and they needed screening and they're pretty ugly. And I don't know if that's necessarily the right use of that park property for a ground-mounted array. They take up a lot of space. They're kind of unsightly. If I were to be in favor of this, it would be on the roof. I do agree with the other members that I think tabling the discussion until we hear from PUC on if they want to pursue either option would be prudent on our part. But I would not be in favor of a ground-mounted array. I think they're unsightly. I don't think this park is right for that. So if anything, I would be in favor, if we were going to move forward with this, the only one I would be in favor of is the roof-mounted.
Actually, again, roof is the only way I want this done as well. I don't really want it on the ground in any way, shape, or form, so. Kara, any comments? Very good.
Yeah, I was also going to mention I don't think a park on the ground would be a place to want to place those, just because what if they wanted to put something cool there at another time and now we have solar panels? So I would agree. I want more information from BPU after they meet.
I think we have a general consensus. Do you need a motion? Nope. Dave, the mayor.
I just, for clarification on what you said, the discussion about if that it was removed, meaning if the park board was to decide that they wanted it removed, that there would be some kind of compensation back to BPU, correct?
I think they'd like to see something like that into an agreement.
Okay, and then-
Obviously, if you're talking about like, especially the larger
Yeah.
array, you're talking potentially like $140,000. That's a pretty big investment.
Yeah, and then conversely with the 20,000 for the fence, I'm assuming that that would be something that would be pitched back to BPU as a cost. It sounds like you guys aren't interested in the ground array anyways. However, I think that would need to be conversed back to them as well. I think you would be in favor of, if that was even their attention, that
Yeah.
the fence would not be coming from you as well.
We don't want to spend a nickel on this.
Okay, I just wanna make sure we're clear
in
on that.
general agreement here. You know, again, the scope of the project has gotten significantly bigger, and there are bigger ambitions even now coming to us at this point. So we want to make sure that we're absolved of this. But yeah, I mean, if there is something inside of the agreement that if we have to tear it down, you know, if there's some sort of compensation that needs to be sent back to BPU on our behalf, need to know about that as well.
Yeah, those
So,
are just the concerns from the city on those 2 points specifically.
very good. Appreciate that. Otherwise, general consensus would be option 3, tabling until we hear more from the PUC.
Do you need a motion, Jesse?
No, sir. That should be good enough for our direction. We'll follow up with BPU staff to provide that guidance to the PUC at their meeting.
Very good. Thank you. We will move on to 7B then. Approved demolition bid for J.C.'s Park Pavilion and Playground, Jesse.
So we're bringing this item back. This was an item back on the May 7th Park Board meeting. We did receive a quote from Treader to perform demolition of the pavilion and playground at the north end of J.C.'s Park. We did table this until the July meeting so that Mayor can kind of coordinate a little bit with the J.C.'s Club. He has been talking with the club about whether or not that they would want to do some rehab work to the pavilion, and I think he might have an update on that.
Yeah, I never heard anything definitively back, so I talked to a couple members, didn't hear anything definitively back, so I think at this point we just move forward.
So with that, I did confirm with Treader Excavating he would honor the quote that was provided this last spring of the $4,900 to perform the work, and we would recommend approval of that quote to perform the work as per the 2024 capital plan.
Very good. Any comments? And yeah, I mean, that's the policy, right? We want to reach out to groups before we demo any of the buildings inside of their namesake park. So thank you for doing any amount of diligence on that. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm not saying that it's a definitive answer, but.
Right. No, but put some feelers out, and if that's, yeah, very good. Any other comments, questions, or concerns on the demolition of the park pavilion and playground at J.C.'s?
And we'll make a motion to approve that quote for demolition.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. We are demoing a playground. Then we'll go to 7C, approve the Lum Park Pavilion proposal. Jesse.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as requested by the Park Board at the June meeting, we had $15,000 left in the Lum Park Pavilion Capital Project. There was a few items left in the Pavilion 1 that we could have potentially done with the remaining funds. So we reached out to High Tech, who's doing the work on Pavilion 2, and had them kind of quote out some of those works. So we kind of broke that out per their quote. What we are recommending is that with the remaining $15,000, that we would budget the new paint or the removal and repainting of the Pavilion 1, and that the remaining 2 items with the gable siding and the fascia be requested through the 2% long-term maintenance fund at the next council meeting for $23,000. And the reason that we're requesting that is since High Tech is doing the work in the area, we think it's advantageous to do this now. But we would be open to, if the park board would like to do it at a different time or go a different direction, we can do that too.
Very good. Thank you, Jesse. Again, I like the usage of the long-term funds. It shows that, we maybe haven't saved up quite enough to do this in our 1 year of saving, but it's excellent use. So any other discussion or comments for Jesse?
I do have a question, yeah.
Kara?
So are we requesting the money from the council, like, at their next meeting, and then we'd be able to do the work? Or are we saying for next year's budget?
I would request it for this year
Okay.
at the next meeting.
And then if they deny that, we're still just fixing the paint.
That's what we have in the budget
Okay.
currently.
All right. Dave?
Clarify the request, though. The request is coming from the funds that were set aside in last year's budget?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Well, they were set aside in, I guess, 2024's budget.
2024 but
Yep.
this budget.
Correct.
Right, that's what I mean, last year's budgeting process. Okay.
Correct.
Just
Paul.
quick question. When we awarded the bids for Pavilion 2, did we get 2 quotes for that? Or did we just go directly to High Tech?
We requested 2 quotes. We only got 1.
Got it. Okay. That's my question.
Very good. Any further discussion on the pavilion? Andrew?
Excuse me, just using the 2% that we have saved, we've only really allocated 3,900 of that money towards the pavilions. So that's something to think about probably, is we kind of be stealing money from elsewhere. It is, I think, nice to do this work while we have somebody coming out to do some of the things, but just a consideration for us.
And I think in practicality, we're going to save money on a lot of these projects, but again, over 30 years' time for certain replacements, we may not have to do that. As an example of Mills Field, right? Some of those things are, we're saving money for those particular items, but, we may not need to repair them, whereas in this particular example, we need to repair the pavilion now, and that just kind of scratches it off in a certain cost to us and savings over the course of time. So it needs to be a little bit more dynamic. But to your point, yeah, we would be taking it off other projects. Dave?
This will be the first time that this has been attempted, so I will not say what the reaction to that will be from the council, but I don't discourage you from making that ask. At least then we have a clearer guidance from them as to whether or not this is an appropriate action.
Absolutely. This whole thing's a new experience for all of us, so. Very good. So we are looking for a motion to approve the Lum Park Pavilion maintenance.
Would move to approve the high-tech proposal and request $23,000 from the long-term maintenance fund.
Second that.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion on the motion? Dave?
Does that mean that it's contingent on the funding?
Well, the additional maintenance, right? We're still
$23,000.
Yeah, the 23,000.
Approval.
We're still going to be removing the chipped and flake paint and providing new paint on concrete block and columns. But then the rest of this, the removal of the siding and all the
Would be
drip
con-
edge
would be
is contingent on the 23,000.
Just be careful with that, because you're accepting the proposal. Just be careful with the two.
Accepting the 9,500, maybe you should clarify.
Yes. I will move to accept the $9,500 for removing the chipped and flake paint and accepting items 2 and 3 for the gable siding and the drip edge contingent on $23,000 from the long-term maintenance fund.
I'll still second that.
All right. Any discussion on the amended motion?
Just a thought, would it be better for council to know that we could maybe do one or the other, so they weren't having to do 23,000 of that? Would that be helpful, Dave? Or would we just want to ask them as a package deal?
Whatever you guys want to do, right? I think that falls on you on how you want to make that ask.
Do those go hand in hand from a construction
Yeah.
standpoint? I mean,
Is it advantageous for us to do one of these and then leave the other for later? I mean,
I don't mean to make
My
this-
recommendation would be to do both at the same
both,
time.
Okay.
Especially considering that they're both high.
They're gonna say no to both.
likely.
Yeah, and again, sorry not to interrupt.
Oh, sorry, too.
No, again, I think this is a great first stab at this, right? I mean, the questions have been raised as to how this will operate. This is a great example of potentially they say, no, we don't want that to be the case. So I think it's a good first step in just seeing how this process lays out.
Very good. Any further discussion on the amended motion?
Yes, one more thing. Jesse, when this is listed as an item, are you able to like speak to it and tell them, we are doing this, we're asking for this so we can get a better bang for our buck and have, because high tech's already there, you're able to like share that with the council?
Correct, and I'll be able to articulate that we weren't able to fit all of Pavilion 1 and 2 into the existing budget for what we had this year. So after doing some of the discussion of what really needs to be done, this 23,000 is what we found as essentially the shortfall. That if we pull this out of the long-term maintenance, we can get this done, and it's an advantageous time while they're here doing this work.
Okay, thank you.
Very good.
So-
Any further discussion on the amended motion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. We'll send it up top. And the new business now, 8A, the approval of the event application for Brainerd Night Out.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is the same event as last year, Brainerd Night Out, Thursday, August 15th, taking place from 5 to 8 in Gregory Park. There is one change into the event. They are going to be closing the block of Juniper Street from 6th to 7th. They're going to put the first responder vehicles in that block of Juniper Street rather than bringing them into the park. And the Brainerd Police is going to work in cooperation with the different groups that are holding the event. City Council did approve this application at their July 15th meeting, so we're bringing this to the Park Board for approval of the use of the park, and staff recommends approval of the attached application.
Thank you, Jesse. Conversation on the event application.
I'll make a motion to approve the event application.
Second that?
Motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing some.
Yeah, the only thing that stood out to me, I love that they're closing the blocks for the vehicles. Just since this isn't the facility reservation that mentions no vehicles in the park for other things, I would want to clarify that even for loading, unloading tents or materials, we expect there's still no vehicles in Gregory. That'd be my only addition.
Yes,
Those
Dave.
hand carts are great. Love them, love them. High usage. Carts in the park, high usage.
Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the event application, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. We're approved. 8B, the approval of 2024 ADA improvement proposal. Jesse.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So at the last meeting, Park Board elected to request quotes for the ADA upgrades at Lum and Buster Dog Park. So we requested proposals from 3 vendors. As a reminder, we have $25,000 in the capital budget for the work, and these are the 3 quotes that we did receive. And those quotes are attached. The low quote was from Lynn Concrete in the amount of $19,780, and we are recommending award of the 2024 ADA upgrades work to Lynn Concrete in the amount of $19,780.
Very good. Any discussion on the improvement project?
Jesse, is there much we can do with the remaining 5,000, or is that probably just going to hang out till next year because that's not a lot of concrete?
It's not a lot. It's not going to get you much more. And I'd be, just in case there's some overrun somewhere, it gives us a little bit of flexibility too.
Cool, thank you.
Any other questions on the proposal?
Move to approve the proposal from Lind Concrete for $19,780.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. We are improving the parks. 8C, the approved proposed 2025 operating budget. Jesse.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is kind of part of the process. We want to bring this to your attention and review. As a reminder, part of the charter is that the Park Board does present their budget request before the August 31st deadline. So we want to get this at this meeting so that way we can identify potentially one of the next two council meetings. I would recommend the second meeting in August for the council to present the budget request at August 19th. August 19th. So as a reminder, we did approve the 2025 capital budget request, which was presented to the council at their June 26th budget workshop, which was the $559,234, which included about $519,000 to the long-term maintenance fund and the $40,000 to the Buffalo Hills parking lot. We also have the little over $191,000 in just regularly scheduled equipment replacements and their annual programs. I had those listed here. I did attach the draft of the proposed operating budget as reviewed by staff between myself, Haley, and Troy. A few things that we want to have considered as part of the discussion. The wages have yet to be finalized. Finance will get that once that's all settled. We do have some union work that needs to be finalized, and obviously that has some bearings on how some of the other numbers will finalize out. Wages will continue to grow both at January 1st and July 1st based on some of the negotiated COLA rates. We are also, and it is not reflected in here, we are recommending an increase to our temporary seasonal worker wages and quantity. This last season, we were advertising our rates at $14 to $16. It is very hard for us to compete in the market at $14 to $16. We were very not competitive in the market. We were finding that most people are hiring their seasonals at the $18 to $20 range. So that's kind of what we're recommending for 2025 is hiring in that range, just to be kind of competitive with the seasonal market of 18 to 20. The other part that we're recommending is hiring an additional 2 seasonal maintenance staff. Something that I have not done since I've been here. We did take on the downtown maintenance district as well as with the new park, but we really haven't increased our seasonal maintenance staffing numbers. So with that, we're requesting to look at hiring an additional 2 maintenance staff. One, this helps us bring up a level of service downtown that I think we would like to do a little bit more down there, as well as address more maintenance issues elsewhere. It's been a little bit of a strain on the existing staff to be able to perform just routine maintenance throughout the park system, especially with a new park, as well. Obviously our existing park system is obviously pretty vast. So being able to get an additional 2 temporary staff will be able to get not only more time downtown, but more time in our existing park system, and being able to address some of the other issues that we're currently having. An item that's later on in the agenda here in a moment here is we did include $600 for the team sideline scheduling software for recreation programs. We'll talk about that here. If it's not approved by the park board, we'll remove it. The other piece in here that I really wanted to make sure that I highlighted here, the utilities have increased greatly since 2022, went up about 20%. I think in 2022 it was about, if I remember right, $80,000, and it's now over $100,000 the last 2 years. Most likely it's due to the new splash pad. We're using a lot more water now with the new splash pad. Other than that, we did include some modest increases in the budget for year 1 of the campground expansion from both a revenue and utility expense standpoint. We made it a modest increase. We don't expect it all of a sudden to double. Obviously, the capacity is going to double, but we don't expect that to happen in year 1. So we just left it as a modest increase for year 1, and we'll see how the first year of the campground expansion occurs and adjust from there. With that, looking for comments, thoughts from the park board regarding the operating budget, and we're recommending approval and park board presentation to the council at their August 19th meeting.
Very good. Any comments or concerns on the operating budget? Dave?
I had two questions. One, so you said that the park staff is doing downtown for the special service district?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm just curious how that works, though, because the special service district pays special services to have that done.
Yes. So that in turn they code their time and it is paid back through that assessment.
Okay.
But we do need to hire the staff.
But yeah, but we're increasing the amount of staff for it, so. Okay, that's fine. I would just like to see from the splash pad, I'd like to get specific numbers so that we can know what that's costing us and then at least be able to have that discussion as to, is that where the 20% is coming from? If it is, that's a cost that the park board knows. But then more specifically, then that's a conversation that if at some point needs to happen with BPU or whatever it is, we have those specific numbers. I just would like to know, if we can, what that cost is.
Jesse, I noticed there's a increase in the lease payments. Was that just another vehicle we added to lease program?
I believe it's a couple. We dropped a couple owned vehicles. So the old maintenance foreman Tahoe was an owned vehicle that is now on the lease program. I believe there was another old pickup that was an owned vehicle. So there's, I think, a couple new lease vehicles that are on the program now. Also a number that we're pretty sure is correct, but we do need to verify it.
Any other questions for Jesse on the operating budget?
Mr.
So
Chair.
as far as
Oh, go ahead.
the temporary seasonal or the seasonal hires that you're proposing, what kind of is the time frame? Like, would it be a 6-month hire? Do you anticipate difficulties hiring for a position like that? What is kind of the starting rate? What is the, I guess, overall goal? Are those the same that you're recommending $18 to $20 an hour? Or
Yeah.
are they like full-time temporary?
So we're looking at the 40 hours a week for 10 to 12 weeks, depending on, for most of them.
So truly seasonal, temporary, $18 to $20 an hour.
Correct. Yep. So all of our maintenance, our weekend garbage, which has been almost impossible to fill, quite frankly, as well as our concession workers. So all of our temporary seasonals, these have all been very difficult for us to fill, just because we're quite a bit below market. So that all of the different temporary seasonals are what we're recommending from 18 to 20 as a rate. Typically, we start at 18, and if they come back for future years, we increase their rate by $1 for returning years.
I think clarification on this, it's just the city itself is hiring, like hypothetically, 2 more seasonals, and then occasionally these people are working the park system, are coded to work in the park system, and we pay, the park budget pays for those people when they spend time in the park working.
Yes, sir. Yep. So the ones that are working downtown, their time is actually coded to downtown, and they are in turn assessed to the downtown special assessment district.
Yeah, so we're not just hiring people to strictly work in our park system.
Mr. Chair, if I can also clarify one more piece. If you haven't noticed it, we do generally try to budget pretty flat with all of our programming. So pond hockey, tournaments, special events, kickball, adult softball. It's usually, we try to assign a lot of those rates at cost. So whatever it costs to run those events, we typically try and align those rates as what those costs are. The only thing that isn't necessarily reflected in them was like Haley's salary. Those fees aren't, or they're not really covering that. But other than that, most of the other expenses like umpires, balls that we may have to purchase for it, those are reflected in those costs.
Dave?
What are umpires up to now in terms of a total cost?
believe we moved it to 32 a game in this last one. And if I remember correctly, Haley did a survey throughout the state, and that was actually, what was it, like top 5% of the state for what we're paying per game.
So 32 how many games? Roughly. think
For
we were at
adult
30.
softball, it's about not quite 800.
Because weren't we at 30 plus last year? 30 plus grand for umpires last year?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure. I just want to know what that number is because
It's a little less than 30 grand
a little less than
for softball only.
right now or for next year.
Right now.
Okay.
Yep. That's at least from what I'm looking at right now. It was a little less than 30,000 for adult softball specifically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jesse, going back to the seasonal workers, obviously we have, 7 full-time maintenance staff now?
6 full-time, including the foreman.
The foreman, okay. Do you foresee the addition of more temporary staff being able to get like our full-time staff that are more apt to work on like special projects and, keep our temporary seasonal on the mowers, the field maintenance, that kind of stuff that are more of the kind of the legwork in the parks rather than having like our full-time staff work on those and they could be dedicated to more difficult projects like building maintenance and all that kind of stuff is kind of a selling point. I think there's value if we're adding more temporary staff to divert our guys that are good at, carpentry and other things to make park improvements rather than sitting on a mower or doing field maintenance for a lot of the day. So I just kind of want to get a sense of, do our full-time staff spend a lot of time doing kind of those mowing tasks or field maintenance staff? And do you see by adding these 2 temporary seasonal employees as kind of relieving them of those duties and maybe shifting their focus more onto the heavier duty maintenance aspects of maintaining our parks?
As available, so obviously when the special projects do come up, it's almost exclusively our full-timers that do have that more specialty knowledge. We typically don't use a lot of the temporaries for that kind of stuff. Ideally, if we have more temporary staff, they're able to jump on mowers and do more of the field maintenance stuff, and that would free up our full-timers to do that stuff.
Very good. Any further discussion on the operating budget?
Well, I'm just curious, concessions, when will we have a better idea? I mean, obviously I know it's the end of July, but are we trending towards really losing that much money again or?
We've been utilizing the tablets almost exclusively this year, and Haley has gotten a really good feel of where the sales have been, and she's been pretty optimistic of where this year is going to turn out, at least so far. And I think by the time that we have the year-end summary of this, I think we're going to have a really good idea of what the opportunities are going to be for making adjustments for years future.
Cool. Dave?
Where do we think we're at right now?
I'm unsure. Maybe Jesse can answer that a little better.
From the discussions that we've had, Haley was pretty confident that we were not going to be in such a deficit as we've seen in the past, but it's tough to put a number on it. We were pretty confident that we were going to at least break even.
That's my goal, at least, is to at least break even. I don't know the specific number of where we are at.
Certainly our goal too.
Yeah.
And I think that was, last year when we talked about this, we didn't have any of this information, item sales or things like that. Like what were we actually selling at the time? So this year, we have a much more, computerized way of knowing what our inventory looks like, what we're wasting, what we're not selling, what we are selling, et cetera. So we can make optimization after this year. So whatever we end up at seems to be probably ideal. So, Haley.
And at the end of the season, I'll do a deeper dive on specifics. Right now, when I've peeked into the different reports, you can see exactly what is being sold, what time it's being sold, if it's sold more on men's league days versus women's. So I think after the season, when I really get into all that data, it's going to just make it so much better for next year.
Right. Yeah, there are definitely some room for optimization, so.
I look forward to that report and samples of said products, specifically candy.
Very good. Any further discussion on the operating budget? Questions, comments, concerns? We'll be looking for a motion to approve the operating budget.
Can make a motion to approve the 2025 operating budget.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion itself? Dave?
All right, Jesse, where does this put us total for capital and operating as an ask to the council?
Jesse.
So the current operating budget as proposed is about 1.12 million. So then you add in the 191,000 and then the 559 that was approved for the capital. So without,
And if
Yes.
you know what last year's was as well, that'd be nice.
sorry, quick math. About 1,870,000 roughly. Mr. Chair, if I may, I would like some clarification on the temporary worker wage and quantity, because I did not include those changes in this operating budget. So if we are going to make those changes, that may change this number.
Okay. So 1.8 is the ask this year. Do we know what it was last year? Similar? I mean, probably close, right?
I have the operating number here. I don't, without the capital. The operating was just under $1 million last year.
I think we requested like 600, 700,000 last year
Or-
in capital, so we're actually asking for,
I think you've kind of flipped some of your numbers around now, though, but 1.8 seems a little bit higher than it was last year. I just don't remember exactly what that number was. But
I do think 1.8 is higher.
it is
By
higher.
probably 200.
It is higher, but I don't know by how much. By 200,000?
I mean, I would guess. I mean, just given the,
0.6 is
just
sticking
given
in my
what
head.
it was last year on actual, and then what we want to budget this year. I mean,
Yes, both operating and capital are higher than they were last
yeah,
year.
I would guess, yeah.
Okay.
We can make some adjustments, but, okay, so we need clarification on the temporary worker.
So do you need us to pick a specific number, like $19 or?
Well, we're averaging 19 is what I put in here, but if you're okay with the, using the 18 to 20,
The range.
the range.
I'm cool with the range, for sure. And then you're looking for 2?
We would request 2 from the park board, 2 additional maintenance.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with it. If you need it, you need it, you know. You can always reevaluate if we're competitive and what kind of work is being done by these guys, but, or gals.
Okay, so you want me to, I'll change my motion to approve the proposed 2025 Parks operating budget in addition to having staff increase their temporary seasonal worker pay to $18 to $20 for 2 staff members. Sorry, that was really choppy. Does that work?
So increasing seasonal staff total by 2
By 2 people?
and increasing seasonal wages to 18 to 20.
Correct.
I'd second that again.
All right. Any other discussion on the amended motion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. We will send the operating budget up. 8D, approval for budgeting for the team sideline software for 2025. Haley.
Thank you. So staff has been doing some research on how we can make our sports leagues better, specifically softball and pickleball, and came across a few problems that we have been struggling with, which is our scheduling, our standings, and scorekeeping. Right now we use Civic Rec, which has not worked well for any league that has more than 4 teams. It double books. It's not a good software for what we need to use it for. We have switched to doing it manually, but that also has human error into it. It's also very time consuming with all of those 3 things we struggle with. So I've done some research and reached out to several towns around Minnesota and have gotten a bunch of recommendations for Team Sideline. I did a demo with them about a week ago, and they have everything that we would need to help manage those issues. They also have a communication system that would be able to be used, and we can just link this right to our website. For the standings, it's going to cut down on staff time, putting it in every day for every league. Our umpires will be able to do it that night at the game on their phone, and it'll be available for all the teams to see. The cost is $599 a year. There's no annual contract, so if it doesn't work, we don't have to renew it. It comes out to about $487 per team with the estimate of how many teams we had this year, and we would just charge that into their league fees for softball, pickleball. If we use it for hockey or kickball, we can just incorporate that fee into that. So staff is recommending the $599 be added to the operating budget for 2025.
Thank you, Haley. Discussion on Team Sideline.
Yeah,
Yes.
so the communication system, so it says it includes 150,000 email credits and 3,000 texts. So if a game is canceled due to rain, the system, you could like blast it out? Is that
Yep.
what that would be used for?
Yeah, so there's 2 different options that you can use. You can import just the managers. That's kind of how our communication is set now. We send an email to our managers, post it on our Facebook, and they're responsible to send it to their players. We can either do that, or we can take the extra time to import the whole roster and send it to every player. I am opting for sending it to the managers. They send it to everybody, but it is a quick thing that they will be able to just get on their phone.
Right, and you think that that's like enough email credits or text credits? We wouldn't need any additional?
I don't think so, as long as the weather doesn't rain every day. I think that will be plenty.
Yeah, it's a lot of emails. I mean, if there is overages, though, we charge individually, or just does it turn off?
I am not sure. I could ask and find
I
out.
find it really unlikely for us to use 150,000 emails a year, but in the event, we send every person in the city of Brainerd on accident an update, whatever. Okay, yeah, right. I think this is great. I mean, we have had a little bit of pains this season. This can alleviate a lot of that, and again, for an efficiency, this is probably the direction we need to go, especially if we're going to keep a lot of these leagues and sports in-house. So, Dave.
Yeah, I would just like to make sure that we're taking this stuff and we're tracking it so that when we have the conversations with the softball players, we have the numbers and say, this is what it's costing each year to run these programs. I just, being open and honest with everybody is the best policy.
And I think as for that, in our postseason meeting this year, I'm going to break down what the fees cost. I'm not sure if that's been done in the past, but I think a lot of questions come up on what their fee is used for, and I can break it down by dollar. So just so they can see it and show that this is also going to be part of that if it's approved.
Yeah, that would be really ideal, I think. From what I've been hearing, that's going to be huge. I mean, especially when the fees increase or we need to make adjustments to how things are. Everybody, it's easier to have those conversations if we know where our money's being spent. So yeah, I'm definitely in favor of Team Sideline. At least giving it a try for however long. If it doesn't work for us, whatever. But definitely a good value. Dave.
Does this also help with our other field scheduling? So not specifically for the teams? Is that separate from this then?
Yeah, this is not the field-specific rentals. This will schedule on the fields for the leagues, but it won't be for if someone wants to rent a field.
So we'll still have CivRec.
Yep.
Okay.
And Civic Rec will be what we use for registration. All of the money side of it will still go through Civic Rec. The scheduling side of it and the communication will go through Team Sideline.
Important to know. Any other questions, comments, or concerns on Team Sideline? Paul?
I would make a motion to recommend the $599 for Team Sideline to be added to our operating budget for 2025, and further to make adjustments to the registration fees to cover the costs of such software.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Karate over there? Okay. Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. We got some new software. Good luck, blast. 8E, approve the Rent.Fund marketing plan.
Thank you. So I have been doing some research on how we can get more people to know about our kayak and paddleboard rentals. One thing that I've really wanted to dig into is how we market this. I think a really good opportunity is creating a fun thing for the people of Brainerd or anyone to participate in. And I think there's many benefits for that. So I'm recommending us creating a photo contest to boost engagement of the kayaks.
Yeah, absolutely nothing wrong with that, I think. I mean, we're awarding them a total of 3 free hours of rental, so not really much of a cost, if you can consider that a theoretical cost. So, sounds good. I'm always a big fan of any sort of engagement on social media to promote our amenities, so. Any questions on the Rent.Fund marketing campaign?
I have one.
Yes, Kara.
Do you plan on posting anything like on the like the kayak rental thing? So in case somebody doesn't follow our Facebook page, so they can maybe visit it then and take a photo.
Yeah, so if this is approved, I will make some sort of flyer and I will laminate it and put it right onto the rental so that when anyone rents it, they'll be able to see that opportunity. And if they're not using social media, they can email it to me and I can post it.
Very good. All inclusive.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, it's been relatively popular so far, right? Yeah, so getting the usage up still can't hurt. So, any other?
Move to approve the photo contest.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Very good idea. 8F. Approve the police versus fire department softball game and event. Haley, presented by the mayor.
You can start.
So me and the mayor had talked about how we want to do more things at Mills Field, and he brought this event up of the working with community action. The idea is having a fun kind of circus-like softball game that's just going to engage all of the people that show up, having fun different games in between each inning, having food trucks available. It would also be a fundraiser to help support Mills Field, and that would be $5 per adult. So just a really fun thing to get everybody engaged and bring them down to our parks.
Very good. This better have Cosmic Baseball
down.
written all over it.
Yeah, yeah. David O, Executive Director, Brainerd Community Action, 321 South 7th Street. Yes, so we would like to partner with the park department specifically. So this would not be necessarily just our event. This would be a co-event, hopefully to reduce some of the cost of using the field and also insurance, that sort of thing. We have a little bit of a budget to put behind it. But the idea behind it is, I don't know if you've ever seen Savannah Bananas, more of a circus performance than just a softball game. Both the fire department and the police department are ready to go. I heard some talk of some ringers. I'm looking at you, police department. I heard some talk about some ringers. But just a fun idea of having an event that game would start about 6 p.m., be a little bit of stuff prior to, and then the event would be a 6-inning game. And then hopefully a little bit of stuff in between each one to try and keep the crowd involved, try and keep kind of a fun atmosphere for everyone. And then hopefully have it closed out 2.5, 3 hours in length, I think is probably about the attention span you're going to get from people. So we've got some cool ideas. I am open to other ideas. But we've got some cool ideas for ways of making the actual game a little less, hey, we're just watching people play softball. Throw some fun stuff in there. And police department and everything and fire department are both highly invested. Thursday, the 22nd, I believe we have on there. So that works best for police department. So
Any questions for our presenter or Haley?
So are kids free?
kids would be free. I would say
Yeah.
kids 18 and under would be free. Goal of this, not to raise $1 million, but as obviously we just came from Mills Stadium today, there are little projects that we could work on. One of the requests that we saw from some of the baseball community is some screening behind the pitcher's mound out on the outfield fence, something along those lines. We've also talked about ivy potentially being put on that outside fence. But the idea just being to maybe raise a couple $1,000s if we could, to put towards that specific amenity. And that way, we just kind of get ahead of a couple of the projects there. One request that I would have is potentially placement of some banners. If we do find, and fingers crossed, someone that wants to give a sizable donation, maybe the access of having some banners, but that would be something that we would bring back to you guys in terms of what that would be. But before I go, trudging up the dollars, just want to have that question of you. Is the outside fence maybe by the entrance or the outfield fence, are those areas you would potentially be interested in putting any type of signage on?
Yes.
100%.
Okay.
Do you plan on serving liquor? Will it be like
No liquor.
Okay.
No, I'm not going to. Community Action has taken a stance as of right now. As long as I'm there, I'm not interested in liquor. So it just gets weird. We had too many conversations, too many long conversations. So, yeah.
Any other questions for our presenter or Haley? No black lights, no cosmic baseball yet.
Listen, we have a hard enough time with the lights that we have
I
up
know,
before I,
but
start messing with
I
lights.
wanted to make sure you said you had some money available. I wasn't sure if it was a couple tens of thousands.
No, we don't have tens of thousands. We've got a small budget set aside for it. And then I think the big question is the insurance, whether or not we can use the city's insurance, having it be a city event, and then we help co-sponsor it essentially. But we'll do the legwork in terms of advertising, working with Haley, trying to get that stuff together, and then obviously using the staff being the volunteers to go play the game. But everybody seems to be pretty excited about it, so yeah. Butts in seats. So
That's what we're looking for.
Yeah.
So I like it a ton. So
Someone be on stilts.
I do not currently have a stilt person. However, I did find a huge bat. So yeah, I'm tossing that out there. It was expensive, so we'll see what that looks like. But those are the types of things we're looking for. I don't want to give away all my secrets, but there's some fun ideas of how maybe some little extra fun in the field, some hurdles, if you will, for the players, both at bat and in the field, stuff like that, just to keep it interesting and fun.
the mayoral dunk tank, perhaps.
I did a dunk tank one time. I will never do a dunk tank again. It was a miserable experience. I learned
I imagine it would be.
that thing smacks you in the back every single time, and the water's always freezing. I'm going to pass.
I'll make a motion to approve the event application or the police versus fire softball game event.
Motion and an eager second. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Let's play ball.
Thank you.
Should have made it conditional on a mayoral.
Yeah, the mayoral dunk tank. Yeah, what was your motion? So, all right. So we will move on to number 9, public forum. Time allocated for citizens to bring matters not on the agenda to the attention of the board. Time limits may be imposed. We'll open it at 5:44. Come on up to the mic. State your name and your address.
Hello all, I'm Allie Neistat with the Lakes Area Music Festival. I live in Baxter, right by Whipple. And I'm here to talk to you today about a possible pickleball tournament for the Lakes Area Music Festival. I do have materials for each of you. Thank you to Haley and Jesse for I know that it's polite to keep my presentation under 5 minutes, so I have set a timer. I have those sheets for you guys too. So the Lakes Area Music Festival is a classical music nonprofit, and we provide about 40 free concerts to the public. We have most of our concerts at the Gitche next to the high school in Brainerd, but we do some outreach in Bemidji, and we go to Cross Lake, and we have a couple concerts there because we think classical music in rural areas is really important. And one of the ways that we want to fundraise for our music education this year is by hosting a pickleball tournament where we have people sign up for $60 to be paired with a musician and play pickleball on August 15th. And I do currently have 2 pickleball courts reserved. On the back side of your piece of paper is kind of like the city request that I filed for August 15th. 2 pickleball courts is $250, $215. And so I am requesting that these fees be waived. Right now we have 2 people signed up. I would obviously push this event harder if we were able to approve the request to waive the fees, because $215 out of what we're going to make from $60 per buy-in is going to take such a large chunk out that really we can't do this event without this being approved. It's not going to be worth it to coordinate the musicians and take up their time. If we can get 6 people to sign up, that's $360. If we can get 10 people, that's $600. That's 4 to 10 private music lessons. Something about the music fundraising that I want to point out is this will be serving Brainerd Lakes area kids. So we are hiring a music education teacher. We'll be collaborating with Brainerd High School. There's not a lot of there's not any string tutoring in the Brainerd Lakes area. So we are hiring a music education person to come in who will be able to provide private concerts. And then throughout the year, in your pamphlet, if you're curious, we do have different kids programming options that are free. So we have a block party that's outdoors at the amphitheater. We have a kids concert. This year it's a superhero theme and it's a free kids concert. And we also have a Soundgarden Arboretum event that's free, and kids can come walk around the Arboretum. There's different string quartets kind of hidden around the trail. So we put on really cool events that do benefit Brainerd Lakes area kids. Now, I talked to Jesse, and he said that for the most part, you don't request pickleball fee. You don't approve a request for a pickleball fee to be waived if it's not open to the public, and this event would not be open to the public. It's our tournament. You have to sign up to be a part of it. But it makes sense that if a family of 5 rallies their kids together to go play pickleball, they should have some courts at Gregory Park, which is the park we're talking about today, to play pickleball. So I did call Tony a couple days ago, last week, time's a blur, and I changed our reservation from 4 pickleball courts to 2 pickleball courts. So if someone does come and they want to play pickleball at Gregory Park on August 15th from 9 to 1 p.m., there will still be 2 open pickleball courts, and we will be very friendly people next to them playing. So I'm requesting for the 4 hours of the pickleball courts to be waived, so that $215 charge to be waived. And I think the 2 biggest reasons why you should consider waiving this fee for the nonprofit Lakes Area Music Festival is because there will still be 2 courts open to the public next to us, and the fundraising effort for the pickleball court tournament is going to go towards Brainerd kids. So thank you for your consideration. There's about 2 minutes left. Can I answer any of your questions?
Yeah, let's open it up for questions for a presenter. Dave?
Yeah, not to jump in from Community Action side, but Community Action would maybe be interested in sponsoring you for this. I would have to have our board approve it, but we would potentially be interested in covering this as a sponsor.
If it's not waived today?
If it's not waived. Not saying not to waive it.
Because that would be good for the future. It would be fun to do an annual pickleball tournament. Obviously, it's next month, so getting it waived this year would be ideal. But if it goes well, and it's fun, and we fundraise a decent amount for music education, Community Action would be a really good group for me to reach out for next year.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you.
That is a Thursday. Usage?
We have our leagues on Thursdays, but that's at Memorial, so Gregory is open.
So and at 10 a.m.
9 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Yeah, well, yeah. Again, your event has on your front page it was 10, but yeah, till 1 p.m. I mean, we don't even start playing until the evening, right, on Thursday at Memorial. Okay. I mean,
I think we should waive them.
yeah, there's just seemingly no reason, especially because courts are going to be available. I mean, yeah, I don't think it's common practice, certainly, but I mean, what's to stop them from just using those two without, you know what I mean, like not reserving them and just kind of. So we don't need the whole court. So I think I'm in favor of just waiving this. I understand that does lead to a slippery slope when it comes to allowing this sort of thing to happen. But again, it's one of those things where you could have just not done a reservation and just walked onto those two courts and, locked arms and blocked people out from using them, I guess, during that time. So I don't necessarily think there's an issue here in waiving it.
I want to play devil's advocate. Nothing against your organization, but almost every event that happens in our parks most likely are for nonprofits.
Yeah.
So that's my only thing. Like, I know we've never had anyone ask for a pickleball court waiver. Usually it's rentals of gazebos. But I just want to throw that out there, especially if we have someone that's sitting here that said he may be interested in sponsoring. But I just had to throw that out there and see. I can also be voted down. But
I was also just kind of shocked that we were charging $25 an hour is that for the entire court? Like the entire fenced in area at Gregory? That's just for a single court. My word. That was maybe the more shocking thing to me was like, oh my word. So maybe that's, in this particular instance, I also feel like, yeah, if you're barely going to be raising, $500-600 in this event, potentially, chewing into a third of that just for using courts that are available to everyone for 4 hours just seems not quite right, so.
And to your point that a lot of nonprofits use these and you don't want to open up the floodgates, I would definitely next year try harder to connect with someone to sponsor it, but because it's next month and I do want to start really selling tickets, it would really help our efforts for music education to get these fees waived this year.
Yeah, I don't have any concerns with waiving the fees. Do we?
I think we make it 1 year and then just ask that if it's for subsequent years that you look at opportunities for
sponsorship.
sponsorships
Yeah.
to cover the fees so we don't set a precedent.
Yeah,
Stated on the record that
I've
this
put a
does not
star.
set a
I
precedent.
don't even mind, honestly, I don't understand it or mind an initiative where if more startup like nonprofit groups want to have, to get their event up and running and be able to promote this and see how it works out for a first timer. I actually don't even have an issue putting an initiative like that together in the park system. But yeah, we gotta waive this thing, so. I mean, that's crazy. I can't believe it's 25 an hour. Yeah, you need a motion from us or direction? Okay, yep, you bet. We'll look for one
Make a
then.
motion to waive the fee for Lakes Area Music Festival's pickleball tournament. Reservation.
Second.
Motion and a second, discussion on the motion. All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. It's on us.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
I put a star next to community action. Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, every spring there are grants available for exactly this, so.
You could send us some photos. It'd be good to put on Facebook.
Oh, absolutely. Yep, I'll take some reels.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Want to mention Troy's got a stick, so watch
Troy
out.
does have a stick, so a little bit more.
This is what happens when you're retired.
You put the park board.
Big water ski got to you.
Troy Rushmeyer, 2818 Blair Street. I had a hip replacement.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
you got to get things fixed, it was in the budget. But I came at the right time, just hearing your discussion today. I've had some discussion with Paul Sandy and Jesse over the last few weeks, Jesse most recently, about Lum Park and the quality of the water at the beach. And knowing that we have this project to renovate and improve the beach and add camping, I know I brought this up at park board meetings in the past, but I just want to get it on your guys' radar. We were down there, I think it was July 1st, and just showing my son's friend from out of town some of the parks, and we went down to the pier, and it's like, wow, this is bad. And I know it's bad, but it gets worse every year. So I implore you to go down there, take a look. If you haven't been down there recently, just in a few weeks, I went down there again today, just in a few weeks, it has exponentially gotten worse. Each year, it exponentially gets worse. And if you're gonna renovate the beach, I would never go in the water down there. I just wouldn't. It's horrible. And you guys are talking about budgets and proposals, and take a look at it. I implore you to go down there, take a look at it. And my son happens to work for Dive Guys, so I picked his brain, and he said, it's a big project, it's bad. And what's happening is the invasive species, they die and they float to the top, especially where all those weeds are around that pier. It's invading the whole beach area from both sides. And so if you look around, it's like, okay, you got potentially more campers, more people wanting to come down and kayak and use the new beach. If the water quality is what it is now, good luck. At least maybe start thinking about the process of getting some quotes from Dive Guys. There might be another company in town or in the area, but I don't even know if there is. But in talking with my son, he said, you're looking at like he's been doing this for a little while, like a 4-year, the first year, something like this, it's horrible. He said, that's going to be significant. But each year you do it, he said, about 4 years into it, and each time it's easier. And what time of the year you do it makes a big difference. So looking at it where it is now, I don't even know if they would touch it where it's at this year. But look at it, please, because it is bad. And you want people to go down and kayak and swim and use that area. I don't think you're going to get. And then because it's not used much, the ducks and the geese are all over the beach, and there's goose scats and duck scats everywhere along there. But if it's getting used, they kind of don't come up in there as much. So that's just, as a citizen, I implore you to look at it closely, especially when you're talking budgets for next year. It would be, to me, it would be just a horrible thing to redo that whole area, make it beautiful, and then people not want to go in the water because it's so nasty. So that's all I got.
Thank you, Troy.
Thanks, Troy.
That's right.
I am curious on what kind of like grants or things like that we can.
I'm sorry, I was going to bring that up.
Yeah, thanks.
I don't know if there is, but I think dig into it, because I don't know if the DNR has any culpability in some of this. But it's even approaching the landing, that little creek, that area that came, all of that. And I was even told, like, even the lily pads are going to just encroach. And so if you keep that area, each year it'll get better to the point where it'll be very low maintenance moving forward, like maybe hardly any, maybe for a couple of years, and then redo it. So as they do these shorelines each year, the vegetation gets way less. So it's not I'm not saying it's probably would be a cheap thing. It probably wouldn't be. But when you're going to spend that kind of money to renovate the park, if there's some grants or something, but it would be a tragedy to not have that water cleaned up in that area. It's a backwater of the Mississippi, I get that. It's never going to be as clear as Pelican Lake, but take a look. It's bad.
Thank you, Troy. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the process for that is, Jesse, but if we could take a gander, see what we can do. I don't know how much of that we're responsible for as a city, and what, maybe the state DNR would kick in. I don't know. So.
If the park board directs us, we can get some more information.
I'd like more info. Yeah, for sure. It's been, kind of yucky my entire life, so if we can have a direction.
Not your entire life.
Well, almost. I mean, my adult life.
We'd hate to have everyone in town get swimmer's itch or something when they open up a new beach, and then everyone's like, don't go to that beach. I mean, that'll clear people out in the summer.
get swimmers itch. I don't think they'll go in the water.
Oh, it won't even get, okay, well,
Although, yeah, the word of mouth has always been no go to that beach, so, so that's my, I mean,
Beach in quotation.
yeah, well, right, exactly, so, yeah, if we could,
Bring back the former glory, Jesse.
Yeah, let's
Bring
get it
back the
back.
former glory.
if you could look into that, that would be great, thank you. Let's see, it looks like we're gonna look for anybody else in the public forum, and seeing nobody else, we'll close it at 6 PM and move on to staff reports.
So we partner with Brainerd Community Action to launch the movie in the park. It unfortunately got canceled because of the rain. Very disappointing. We are hoping to pick a new date to reschedule it. The date has not been picked yet. But one thing I do want to note is just how many people said they were interested on Facebook. Only 48 said they were confirmed that they were going, but 1,037 on Friday said they were interested in this event. So I think this event can be a huge thing for Brainerd as it continues to grow. We did not get to see how it turned out because of the rain, but I think this is super promising. Our sports, pickleball's kind of wrapping up here, gonna start playoffs soon. Softball, we start some playoffs this week, some in 4 or 5 weeks just because of rain out days. Registration has opened up for fall ball and fall kickball. It's still pretty low. I think we have one more co-ed team that has signed up since this was created. Pickleball registration starts up tomorrow. Going to our kayak paddleboard rentals. As of Friday, we had 32 rentals in July, 61 total. The average rental is 30 to 60 minutes, so just within that 1 hour rental thing. We also I took out kayaks and got pictures to make Facebook pages, put on our Facebook, Instagram, website. I'm really trying to push this just because most people don't know about it yet. Thanks.
So maintenance, obviously you have the maintenance list. I just wanted to highlight, obviously it's not just a maintenance, to Paul's question about special projects. Obviously we're always working on some special projects. One thing in here, like the broken merry-go-round in Kiwanis Park, that's a pretty old merry-go-round. It's not something that just kind of lies around outside of just replacing the merry-go-round. We ended up refurbishing it, so we had to buy a whole handful of parts, and that was sitting at the shop for a while getting essentially refurbished by staff. So it's actually looking really sharp, and I don't know if it's back out in the park quite yet, but it's looking sharp last time I saw it. And the other parts are helping out with different events. It's been a busy month for events, helping move things in and out for the Narbecue event over here at City Hall. The Arts in the Park event, the 4th of July event, the Team Ascension tournament over at Memorial Park. So all these different events, they're also helping out move things in and out for those events. So it's not just obviously mowing and preparing fields and stuff like that, but it's all these different projects and helping out with these events. So there's a lot of different things that the staff is always working on. On top of that, we have all the different project report or updates that are included in here. And we'll highlight the ARPA projects, a little bit of delays on the reconstruction. So we're not expecting DeChantel to get started until late August in JC's, which actually works out. Obviously, things kind of slow down in parks towards the late August timeline. And they probably won't get to Lum Park until after Labor Day, which is even more advantageous because that's when that programming in that park slows down quite considerably. So that'll help us out quite a bit. So we don't have to worry about too much with conflict. With that, the other part I will highlight with Lum Park is we did get our tree prices. We do have, I think I've highlighted, we have about 24 trees that are essentially dead and diseased and dying that we had to remove, but we're pretty lucky. Our pricing, we're going to replace about twice that many in the park this year. So it's going to be Won't be big and mature like some of the ones that we're going to be removing, but we're going to do a lot of replacements this year. With that, I have any other questions from the board?
Any questions for staff? Andrew?
What happened to the stone wall at Gregory?
We got a photo and a message from Council President Bevins that one of the stones was missing out of the wall. Not sure what happened, if it was kicked out of there for whatever the reason. Our maintenance was able to find a rock, a stone, and shape it. So talk about special project. They were able to shape it and get it to fit in there and get it to fit into that spot. So
Wild. Okay.
Interesting. Yeah. Any other questions of staff?
What I expected. Wow. To whoever took the stone.
Please return the stone at your earliest convenience. Any other questions of staff? We'll move on to board member reports, and we'll start with Paul.
I got nothing.
Got nothing. Me, I met with folks that were interested in utilizing Mills Field for a rock concert late September, early October. A lot of details still being worked out, a lot of band names being thrown around, so we'll continue along that process and see where it all ends up. I think it's a great site for the venue, just kind of noise and that sort of thing in kind of a residential area, but we'll leave that up to the folks that would have voted on that sort of thing. So, but yeah, so other than that, our trip to Mills Field actually I felt was very, very surprised by, how not bad some of the things were in the park or in the field itself. So, and then just seeing some of the work that has already been done by the community, the baseball folks, the kids. So, not as bad as I thought it would be. Certainly, few areas that are maybe not great, but otherwise, I am curious, Jesse, though, on the JC's concession stand is also not up to code, right? Like we can't do any concessions out of the JC's concession or Haley, I guess.
That one is certified. I think that one is completely licensed.
Okay. Do we have any besides the Mills Field one that are maybe not certified for regular use in the system? Yes? Okay.
I believe Buffalo Hills is just event-based.
Okay. I have nothing else. Andrew?
Two small things. Both Gregory Park related, because I'm always there. Would implore our wonderful community concerts on Thursdays to use the carts and not drive their truck in the southwest sidewalk. I know Deanne Berry is doing her best, and it's a different group every week. We have lovely carts. If we need more carts, I think the board would entertain that.
Beautiful carts.
It was just a little disheartening to see the truck driving down the sidewalk where people come to see the concert. But that, and then I don't know what's happened, but the garbage cans in Gregory seem to have disappeared, except for the playgrounds and the warming house. There used to be some other places. I don't know what the deal is. It would be, if it's able to save staff time and they're more towards the edges on some of the corners, that would be lovely. But I don't know, with Arts in the Park and different events, I suspect they got consolidated to get emptied and then.
Shouldn't have. They're smaller than the ones that we use for the event. So the ones that we use for the event are larger and were set aside. So
I can
assume they didn't get, swept up, but.
Not a huge deal, but just something that has been weird. That's all I got.
Huh?
Well, I'm curious if we ever considered doing like Pints for a Purpose at Jack Pine to earn money for Parks and Rec. I don't know if that's possible with the city partnering with them on that, or even doing like a chamber night where we, business after hours. I assume we're chamber members. I don't know if we are the city Parks and Rec, but like that would Pints for a Purpose. I mean, you get like $1 from every beer, and that's a lot of people go to that. I don't I didn't have time to like actually call Jack Pine and, because I didn't know if we could even do it, but it's like twice a month, and I don't know, it might be an opportunity for us to earn some money. It would go exclusively to the parks. Earmark it just to whatever park dedication funds or whatever we would have to do. We could, yeah, also hosting a business after hours. I know our park isn't new anymore technically, but doing it at Lyman P possibly, or I don't know, just a couple ideas again, just to, or maybe Memorial Park once we get the beach done, or, you know, just ways to get our business folks and community members to our parks for a different reason. That's all.
Anything from the mayor?
I just want to say that I appreciate your guys' budgeting process tonight, once again, and your budgeting process this entire year. Appreciate the effort that has gone into it. You know, we'll put it in front of the council can make their decision on that. However, I appreciate your process. Big thank you to staff and to Haley for the movie night that did not get to actually happen. However, she was out there for multiple days. Big days on this project. And I will say this, that the screen was up. And it is a big screen. It actually has to sit a little bit out in front of the pavilion itself. It's that tall. It doesn't take up the whole width of it, but I think it's going to be a hit. I think it was a good idea, and I think that I would recommend doing it sooner rather than later, just get it out of the way. But it was the right decision to cancel it. I am an advocate for never canceling anything ever. I think that when you start doing that, then people just think you're going to cancel all the time. But I commend Haley and her decision, and the rain came in right at the right time. It started right at the point when we got to make a decision. You made the right decision. I commend you on that. And then you know, once you make that decision, you stick to it and you move forward. So, but having seen it, it's pretty exciting, and I'm really happy to see that the park board is going forward with that. So, other than that, Arts in the Park was fantastic this year. Big turnout again this year, and a couple hiccups that we could deal with along the way. But the one request that I do have is that our sidewalks in Gregory Park really need to start getting some fill dirt in there. As a man with terrible ankles, I'm just going to recommend that somebody's going to turn an ankle, because it's gotten to the point where in a couple spots it's almost a solid 3-4 inches. So for that event, obviously we put things out past the sidewalks long enough so that people can get out into the grass a little bit. But in walking through there multiple times to put the lines in and stuff, there were a couple instances where I stepped funny on the sidewalk, and I just want to make sure that we're at least looking at that at some point. It's probably going to be quite a bit of dirt, but I think it's imperative that we keep at that. End of report.
Very good. Looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. We are adjourned.